We now continue with Smurf.
I was visiting family in Colombia when I was a child, probably around 8 or 9 years old. I am playing PS1 with my cousin all night. It's around 2 a.m. His mom yells us to go to bed, and we obey. His room is pretty small, and has a window that opens up to the street. His bed is right beside the window. It's a hot night, so we open up the window to let the breeze in. There is a full moon outside, and combined with public lighting, gives a pretty clear view of the street. We are laying in bed, chatting, talking about games. Suddenly, I see a very large bird flying towards the roof of a house across the street. My cousin sees it too, as it is landing. The bird goes out of sight for a few seconds. We then see a person wearing a long trench coat and a big hat walking towards the edge of the roof of the house. What the hell? We both hide below the frame of the window because we think it did not see us. We stay there for what feels like an hour. I take a peek outside to see if it is still there. No one is there. We close the window and do not sleep all night. The next morning, I tell my aunt about what we saw. She tells us a witch scared us because we stayed up playing games till late. My face went. I remembered another one from Colombia. Visiting my family again. This time I'm around 18 years old. I am in the park with some people doing exercise in the bar section. We start talking about paranormal stuff because it's around midnight. Dude bro tells us that the school next to the park is haunted. He says there is the spirit of a nun that appears. No one believes him. He says there is a wall low enough for us to climb and get into school. A small group, 4 people including me, accepts and follows him. We get in the school, which already looks haunted because of the deterioration that has set in. We start walking around and accidentally stumble upon a security guard. The guard screams at us and we shit our pants. We explain to him that we are not here to vandalize. We are just messing around, looking for paranormal stuff. The guard is annoyed but relieved that we are not gang members. It's a middle to lower class sector. I start asking him about the nun. He says that yes, a nun appears sometimes roaming the hallways. He tells us that if a guard is sleeping, something will shove him or tap him hard so he will wake up. They believe it's the nun. We are all unsettled at this point. The guard tells us it's time to go away and that he will escort us to the exit. On our way out, we pass by the bathrooms. Another guy in the group gets freaked out. I asked him what the hell was wrong with him. He says he heard laughter coming from the bathroom. We are spooked at this point. We all shut up and quietly walk to the entrance of the bathroom. No one goes inside. We hear a faint laughter. Nope. The faint laughter is now accompanied by other several laughs. All sound like little children. We nope the hell out of there. I did not sleep that night either. I was 17 years old at the time. This time I was in El Salvador with my family. Yes, I know that's Central America, not South America. Bite me. It's New Year's, so my whole family is at the house, just celebrating and stuff. My uncle starts telling everyone about the lady in white. He is convinced that this lady in white comes in very often and haunts the house. At the time, I am very skeptical, so I start making fun of this lady. I put a white cloth over my head and start screaming, "I'm the lady in white," for the whole night, and make my family members laugh. Anyway, fast forward to about 3 hours later. It's 3 a.m. Everyone is going to bed, so I do too. The adults sleep in the rooms, and the kids sleep in the living room and floors. It suddenly gets cold as hell as I am trying to sleep, so I get up and realize that the door to the backyard is completely wide open. I wake up my cousin to go and close the door, and he says alright. Suddenly, I hear him let out a weird noise, and he runs straight back to me. I ask him what the hell happened, and he says that the woman in white is outside. I don't believe him. I get up and go to check for myself. I was about 2 feet away from the door, and I saw a lady in all white walk across the yard. She wasn't glowing. She wasn't transparent. It just looked like a lady dressed in all white walk across the yard. I scream because I'm a little bitch. Everyone comes out of the rooms and asks what is happening. I tell them what I just saw, and my uncle looked satisfied and had a "I told you so" look. All the kids end up sleeping in their parents' rooms because they were too scared. At night, we heard plates breaking and things being thrown in the kitchen. When we went to go and look, there was nothing there. Everything was the exact way that we left it. My parents decided to leave, and we slept in a hotel that night. I got a lot of stories if anyone wants to hear. Here is another one. My mom is Colombian, and my dad is Guatemalan, but he was raised in El Salvador. Both of them were raised in very rural areas, so there's a lot of freaky stuff happening. This one happened in Colombia. I'm about 18 years old this time. I live in the countryside, and there is absolutely no streetlights, so when I say it's dark, I mean it's fucking dark. You literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. You are forced to take a flashlight everywhere. No one usually walks outside at 11 p.m, but we're on vacation, visiting family. We were at my uncle's house about 15 minutes away from my grandma's house. My mom and I finally decide to walk back to my grandma's house. We have our flashlight, but halfway to the house, it goes out. It is dark as hell, but we don't care. My mom knows those streets like the palm of her hand. Suddenly, we hear very faint crying in the distance. It was very disturbing, especially seemed like we were walking towards it. The crying gets loud as hell all of a sudden, almost as if it's right next to us. I tell my mom, and she just says, "Shut up, keep walking." We eventually get home, and I ask her about it, but she does not want to speak. I ask my grandma, and she tells me the story of La Llorona, which is basically some ghost who won't stop crying and will follow you all the way home. I don't know what to think of it, but still pretty creepy. I have more if anyone is interested. This one also takes place in Colombia. I am 18, and I am at my uncle's house. They have this really weird thing happening every day for the past 2 years. Every day at the exact same time, 6:09 p.m, they hear a loud banging on the roof. The roof is made of aluminum and it is flimsy, so if anything hits it hard, it will break. I stay at his house for a week. The first day, I hear it while eating dinner, and I get frightened and go outside. There is absolutely nothing there. Same thing with the second day. Same exact thing with the third day too. Finally, I ask my uncle about it, and he tells me the story, so I get curious. The fourth day, I wait outside until 6:09 and hear the loud bang but see absolutely nothing. I am just completely baffled. Same thing with the fifth day. The sixth day, I get a ladder and I climb it up to the roof. I watch the roof and I hear the noise, loud as hell at 6:09, with absolutely no explanation as to how it is happening. I gave up after that because I can't step on the roof. It would literally break through if I got on top of it. Till this day, I have no idea what it was. These wicked creatures called crawlers are in Argentina too. Mining facility event. I apologize about my English. It's not my native language, but anyways. I am here because I want to share one of my last experiences in the woods of my state, Santiago del Estero. I am actually living in the capital city. That's the point of my career, and I've been here the big part of my life, by the way. However, once in a while, I got invited by my mom to pass the time in a cottage that she has with her couple, which is about an hour out of the city, like 60 kilometers away. It is a beautiful place with plenty of fish and a humble river, and with lots of wild animals like cougars or deers in a huge forest. One of the weekends of the last winter, June 2021 here, I got invited to hunting, and I accepted. It was like 5 degrees Celsius at 1 a.m, an hour in where it is common to hunt native deers and hares here. It was so cold. In the state municipality, and where we were, it's called Loreto. You can find it in Google and look how it is. Loreto, Argentina, and there is ancient military bases and mining yards close to where we were that day. I tell this because I think there's a relation between these creatures and those kinds of abandoned stations. The point is, the night got extended and we had no animal catch, and how we were close to an old mining station, my mother's boyfriend, the one who I was with, has the idea to go there, and I love to explore, so I accepted. I agreed that it was a good idea to go and explore this abandoned place. We listen and hear a lot of noise when we get to a house with the door completely broken. Then we thought, there is actually a deer here, and turn on the lights and walk silently, because we didn't see another exit for the deer that we thought was here. Finally, with the lantern pointing towards a square structure, we saw one of the creepy things that I didn't believe exists. In that moment, I thought it was a homeless person at first, but no one stays looking at the light like another animal. The guy who was with me told me what the hell was that, and I remember not talking because I was trying to understand. The freaky thing screams pretty noisily, literally like an angry cougar, but more shrill and aggressive, and goes to run to apparently a hole in the debris that was in the structure. We literally ran out of there in confusion and dread, and then we got to the van and returned to the house to tell the story. My conclusion, I want to think that what we saw was a kind of psychotic individual who finishes like that in nowhere, or maybe kind of a ghoul or weird stuff. My companion thought it was a sick dog, but I know that he has poor eyesight these days. I don't know if this stuff exists, but as I read before about mining places and this creature, I feel this is something we don't really know all about, but I know that what we saw was not normal, and I don't want to return if I know things like that walks around our house and stuff like that. Peruvian here. I live at the south of the country, and there are a lot of stories that I've heard, mostly from friends, that come from the rural towns to study at college in the city. Here is some. I have a friend, let's call him E. E lived in a town called Tarada, that's about 2 hours away from the city. It's a small town, but well known because of its traditions and its folklore. My friend lives with his whole family, dad and mom, brothers and sisters, grandma and granddad. The whole family comes from military tradition, so they were very strict, especially granddad. E is still a child, about 7 to 8 years old, when his granddad tells him the story about the death, the parka. The story goes like this. When you hear the sound of chains, someone in the neighborhood is going to die. E gets really scared and starts to cry. Granddad calls him a pussy. Some months later, when E is at school, he returns at his home. He has lunch with his family, and Granddad starts to talk about how he could hear the sound of chains in the morning. Starts to make fun about how the death is going to come after him. Everyone laughs. Next day, Granddad wakes up dead, and no one has a clue why. He is just dead. They have a funeral. Everyone is sad and confused about Granddad's death. Some weeks later, strange things start to happen to E. He says someone is calling for him with an adult male voice. Come here, E. Let's go. Follow me. He ignores the voice because it does not sound familiar. But one day, he is in his living room with his grandma and hears the voice coming from his backyard. Come here, E. Let's go. Follow me. Is your dad calling you? His grandma says. E goes to the backyard saying, I'm coming, and falls unconscious for what he says was a couple of seconds. He wakes up, and Grandma is carrying him, and he can hear her saying, Motherfucker, go back to the place that you belong. You are deaf. Go back and never return again. He turns his vision to where she is shouting, and clearly sees his granddad there. But the thing that E still remembers to this day is how his granddad acted before vanishing. His granddad gives him the most horrific smile that he has ever seen. Later, E was brought to a sorcerer, curandero, so he can give him a cleanse, limpia, with the koi. He rubs the koi all around his body, and when the ritual is over, he opens the koi with a knife, just to discover that all of the insides in the koi have turned black. This is one of the stories. If you want better ones, just tell me. This is a story from my substitute teacher when I was in high school. It has been years since then, but that story is something that I always remember. The teacher is young and was transferred to the north of Peru in the Amazon in a very small town. He has made friends with the locals. They tell him a lot of stories about the spirits in the rainforest and how you have to respect them. The teacher does not mind it too much until one day. He is playing football with the locals. Suddenly, a low sound can be heard near the trees. The locals stop playing, leaving the teacher confused. The sound is starting to get higher, It sounds like someone is whistling a rare tune. The locals tell teacher to stand in his place, sit down, and close his eyes. Everyone else does the same. The teacher gets confused, but follows their words. The whistle is getting more and more close to them. The teacher starts to feel afraid. The local next to him tells him not to move an inch of his body and to keep his eyes closed. He can hear the sound coming closer and closer until it passes next to him and then vanishes into the trees. Everyone keeps calm until they cannot hear the sound anymore. At the end, the people from there told him that maybe it was the spirit of someone who died recently and that they tried to hide from it so that the thing won't steal their souls to keep it company in the afterlife. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Continuing with the stories about Peruvian mythos, this is about the Kharisiri. The Kharisiri is a kind of sorcerer who is well known for using a kind of narcotic to immobilize his victims and put him to sleep. After putting him to sleep, the Kharisiri uses a Ecological instrument to steal the fat of the victim's body. Since it's not a professional procedure, if the victims do not go to a hospital, most of the time they die. Kharisiris are well known because they can transform into animals like a dog, a rabbit, or a bird. People believe they have made a pact with the devil to acquire those powers. Now that you know something about them, this is a story that I know happened because it happened to a relative. My mother's goddaughter is having bad times. At her wedding there was a blackout, so the party was cancelled, and a lot of bad things keep on happening to her. Her father is a well-known man in my city, and he knows a lot of people, from respected medics to actual thieves. Someone tells him about a sorcerer who is well known because he practices cleanses that are known to work. But the thing is that he is very hard to find and to contact. That someone gets paid to find the sorcerer, and after about a month or so, he finally finds him. He reunites with my mother's goddaughter, let's call her N, her husband and her dad. The sorcerer tells them that he is sorry if I took them too much time to find him, but it is like this because he keeps hiding from people that are after him and asks them if it's some kind of sorcerer mafia. Sorcerer says yes, but he can't ask for help from the police because they work in some unusual ways. After talking, the sorcerer tells them that they are going to a ranch at the north of the city, in a place where not many people live and somewhat far off from the city. They arrive there. The ranch is property of a friend of the sorcerer. The place has a lot of tall bushes, with crops and everything. They go to the only building in the ranch, and in the roof, the sorcerer wants to have a whole view of the ranch. They start the ceremony. He starts a bonfire, and brings a lot of exotic flowers. He starts explaining that someone has put a curse on N and his husband, possibly an ex-boyfriend. The sorcerer recognizes the curse. It was put on by an enemy of him. Suddenly, they start to hear something. It is the sound of wings. N told us how a big black bird, a gallinazo or vulture if you want, it's near the crops. They see it, and it goes to hide in the tall bushes. N and her husband and dad feel the chills, but the sorcerer continues on with the ceremony. Suddenly, there are more vultures, 3 of them. They are making sounds, and N says that it looks like they are looking straight at the sorcerer. The sorcerer still does not care at all. He continues on with the ceremony and does not say a word about the vultures. The ceremony and cleanse ends after 2 hours. It is getting dark. The vultures are still there. Sorcerer tells N to not be afraid. He is going to take care of it. The sorcerer grabs something from his bag and throws it to the bonfire, creating a huge fire. The vultures start to panic and then fly away. N asks what the hell is going on. The sorcerer tells her that they are his rivals. They are Kharisiris. They are the people after him, his rituals, and his secrets. They are after him because he has been interfering with their business. They have been trying to locate him for months to get him killed, steal his fat, and use it for rituals. Sometime later, N's life is improving. She is grateful to the sorcerer, recommends him to a lot of people. It is impossible to reach him. It has been like 3 years and not a single word about him. People don't know if he has been killed or just hidden in another city or country. So every week, I go to an ecological park near my school to skate on a concrete soccer field. The problem is that this place is really popular here in the city, making it difficult for me because there are always people playing football or exercising there, so I always go before opening at 7 AM, going around the woods and jumping over a fence. Now, before I continue, I will give a brief background of this place. In the 19th century, this park was part of a family farm that had an underground cult. I don't know much about it, but they say that the bodies of all the members of that family and the people who were part of the cult were buried there. Also, there are several stories of people disappearing, and a creepy cave full of random stuff, and a creepy statue inside. The week before last week, a friend of my mother who was walking there found the body of a young woman near the football field that I mentioned. The disturbing part was that there was no news about it in the local newspaper or on the internet, and I searched a lot. The place was banned by the police for a while, and then everything went back to normal last week, yet something seemed off to me. Anyway, at 4 AM I left my house and arrived at the place at 5 AM, as I always do every week. The different part is that the sun rises later in the summer, and as you can imagine, it is summer in my country, so 5 AM was still dark. I had even thought about going out later, but I did not want to break the routine, so as soon as I entered the forest, it was pitch black, since there were no streetlights nearby, and the only thing that I could use to guide me was the flashlight of my cell phone, and that was what I did. Getting close to the fence that I would jump over, I had heard a noise that I could not describe. Usually, the only thing I hear there are birds, among other animals, but that sound I had never heard before, and it was certainly not an animal, because it was not an organic sound. I can't explain it, but it was different. I ignored the sound, but in my head came those horror movie scenes where the same thing happens. I never believed in the paranormal, so I continued, but I have to admit that this sound made me anxious. As soon as I jumped the fence, I was able to see this bizarre creature from afar. I could not see it clearly, but I could see the movement and the eyes that shone slightly. I was in shock and I could not move. I bent down, hiding in the woods, and turned off the flashlight on my cell phone. He kept walking around, and when I calmed down a little, I realized just how similar with the crawler it was. Tall, long limbs, thin body, and hunchback. It was at that moment I thought of taking a picture of the thing. The first picture I took, I had forgotten to turn on the camera flash, and to no one's surprise, the picture was pitch black, so I turned on the flash and took another picture. After making sure I was not hallucinating, I decided to go for a third picture, and something strange happened. My phone just turned off and then on again, and it kept happening whenever I tried to take another picture. After a while I gave up and decided to go back home. I already had the evidence, so I had no reason to stay there. As soon as I got home and went to check the photos, I noticed something strange. The photo that I took without the flash was the way I would imagine it was, pitch black. But the second image I took with the flash was corrupted, and even when I moved it to the PC, I also could not see it. Obviously, the other photos I tried to take did not save, as the phone just turned off. Taking into account that when I took the photo with flash the first time, the phone did not turn off, and so there will be no reason to corrupt the file. So, since then, my phone turns off whenever I take a picture with the flash on. Bonus. Also, the other day, well before that happened, I was in the same park, recording a video while I was trying to land a new trick, and I heard a sound I don't remember, but it could have been the same sound that I heard before jumping over the fence. But the strangest thing is that in this video, you can hear no sound but the birds, which can lead to the theory that this sound only happens in my head, but you can see me looking around confused. Just for reference, all these pictures and videos are old and I can't access them anymore, so sorry. So today, I went back there, after the sun came up of course, and realized something outside the field. There was always a big can of paint full of stones. Nothing strange about it, but conveniently, this can had been moved to another place. The thing is, this can is clearly heavy. Not so heavy, a person strong enough can lift it, but it is heavy like, why the hell would I lift this? So, why would anyone move that can? Doesn't make any sense to me. Also, Another very strange thing in this place is that there is a bathroom nearby that has always been closed with a lock and chains, but since the beginning of the pandemic, they have posted a warning that the bathroom is closed because of the virus, and obviously they locked it again, but they forgot one thing: to lock the back door. I never had the chance to go into that bathroom, and I never wanted to in the first place. The smell is horrible, and you can feel it for miles, but I took advantage of this failure to enter and record. The place is scary. Luckily there was nothing there but trash and condoms. On the 17th of August, 1978, Carlos Acevedo and Hugo Prams departed the city of Buenos Aires aboard a Citroën GS 1220 as part of the first leg of the Rally de América del Sur, organized by the Argentinian Automobile Club and the Banco de Intercambio Regional. The competition was truly exhausting for men and machines alike, a marathon lasting a little over a month, during which they had to reach Caracas, Venezuela, from Buenos Aires, returning along the Pacific coastline of South America. In the early hours of the 23rd of September, Acevedo and Moya were covering the last 1,000 kilometers of the rally. At approximately 2 a.m., they stopped at the ACA service station in Viedma, where they took on fuel, filling up their standard 50-liter tank plus a 40-liter backup tank, drank coffee, and spoke to the other racers for a few minutes. At 2:30 a.m., Citroën number 102 was en route again to Bahia Blanca, after crossing the Rio, crossing the town of Carmen de Patagones at around 0300 hours, having left behind the intersection of Route 3 with the rural road leading to the Cardinal Cagliero. The incident. Carlos Acevedo was at the wheels of the Citroën when he suddenly saw a bright light reflected in his rearview mirror. It was a dense, yellowish light. At first, it looked like only a dot in the mirror. However, its size increased as he watched. Acevedo and Moya were driving at around 100 kilometers an hour at that moment. In spite of this, the light was closing in swiftly, causing Acevedo to believe that it was the headlights of one of the heavier vehicles, Citroën 2400s or a Mercedes-Benz, causing him to slow down and pull over to the right edge of the asphalt in order to allow another rally competitor to pass him by. The light was already filling the rearview mirror and kept closing in. Suddenly, the passenger compartment in Acevedo and Moya's Citroën became filled with light. Light flooded the passenger compartment, and I could not see beyond the hood of the car. It was a dense, brilliant light, yellow in color with some violet hues. I thought I'd lost control of the car at that moment. I looked through the window and saw they were nearly 2 meters over the asphalt surface. I suddenly thought we had jumped over a speed bump and braced myself on the steering wheel, waiting for the moment we would hit the surface again, Acevedo explained. However, far from descending, the car seemed to keep rising into the air, out of control. After a few seconds, I don't know, maybe some 5 or 10, I reacted and realized that something completely abnormal was going on. I wanted to look outside the window again, but all I could see was that dense light. I remember I started screaming, "What's going on?" but Moya was not answering. When I looked to my right, my companion was not there, or at least I could not see him. I couldn't even see the dashboard. I could only see that dense light that looked liquid. I don't know, sort of viscous, Acevedo recalls. Miguel Angel Moya, on the other hand, was paralyzed by fear and explained, "Initially, I also thought it was a speed bump and was scared at the thought of the vehicle overturning, but when I noticed that the car appeared to float in the air and was not coming down, I became even more frightened. It was a situation I could not really understand." I looked at Carlos and I saw him completely stiff, clutching the steering wheel with his arms outstretched and staring forward. It seemed like he was screaming, but I could not hear anything. I could see everything as if through a yellow fog, as if I was distant somewhere else. I think my first reaction was to try and flee from there, but when I tried to open up the door, it would not budge, as if welded shut. I noticed the temperature was rising, although it could have been the result of my state of fear. Suddenly, the light covered everything and I could not see a thing, not even my hands, nothing. The witnesses lost all notion of time. They felt a sudden jolt and noticed that the vehicle was on the road again. I think a minute or two went by, I'm not really sure, and I felt a shudder, but I had the immediate impression that the car was on the road again. The yellow light appeared to dim, and I was gradually able to see my surroundings, the dashboard, the hood of the car. I looked through the window and saw the ground, We were on the shoulder on the opposite lane of the road, fully stopped. Suddenly, the light vanished from the passenger compartment, and I saw it fading away into the west, like a cone of yellow light, but one that did not end in a tip. It was somewhat truncated. I don't know. It might have measured some 5 meters at the base and 2 or 3 at the cusp, measuring some 6 or 7 meters in height. The base lit the ground, although you couldn't really see what it was lighting. That is to say, you could not see through the light. A few seconds later, the light, how can I explain it, retracted itself or drew up like a curtain from bottom to top, and all that remained in view was an oval, whitish yellow light that kept heading west until it vanished in the distance, said Acevedo. The aftermath. 15 minutes later, the Chilean drivers of Citroën No. 2 reached the town of Pedro Luro, a community located in the province of Buenos Aires, some 123 kilometers north of Carmen de Patagones. They stopped at a service station in order to ask for the location of the police barracks. When checking the dashboard, they ascertained 2 anomalous events. The odometer showed that they had covered 52 kilometers from the city of Viedma to Puerto Luro, when the actual distance between both places is 127 kilometers. Moreover, they had reached Pedro Luro at 5:10 in the morning, having departed the city limits of Carmen de Patagones at 2:50 approximately. Driving at an average speed of 100 kilometers an hour, it should not have taken more than 75 minutes to cover the distance between 2 points, but they had in fact taken 2 hours and 20 minutes. There was a third, inexplicable event. When they decided to fill up the main gas tank, they noticed that their backup tank was completely empty, despite having been filled with 40 liters of fuel in the city of Viedma. These unexplained events added to the witnesses' confusion. In spite of their growing fear, they decided to tell their story to the police at Pedro Luro, heading to the respective barracks.